Hey there, everybody. How's it going? Welcome back to another awesome episode of On the Throttle with Jacqui Van Ham and my buddy Josh Trokey out here bringing you all of the newest news and breaking stories going on out here in the world of motorcycles and power sports. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Today is another action-packed episode, if I do say so myself. All sorts of news going on this past week. For today's show, I'm going to be talking about, is Suzuki set to strike with a trike? And the most interesting news story about the most boring thing that everybody in power sports has to buy. Josh, what you got going on in your neck of the woods?
I am interested and excited about the thing that's not exciting. So, I'm looking forward to that one. For me, my two stories today, we're going to talk about how everyone changes. Sometimes you're good at something, and then everyone's like, "Hey, that was cool like 10 years ago, but now it sucks." So, we're going to talk about how someone has changed to adapt for that, and then someone else is growing. Which it's always good news to have that in our industry. So those are my two stories. With that, we would like to thank today's sponsors, one of which, for all of your motorcycle, ATV, and UTV oil requirements, be sure to run Pen Grade 1. The unique base oil cut utilized in the original green oil and the enhanced levels of anti-wear additives provide strong protection while reducing internal friction for increased horsepower output under the most demanding conditions. Pen Grade 1 is proud to be made in the USA.
The road can throw a lot at you, but you can depend on Heidenau Tires to see you through it. Quality, made in Germany. For more info, go to HeidenauTires.com.
And welcome back, everybody. Huge thanks again to this show's partner, Pen Grade and Heidenau Tires. Thanks for jumping in. So, for today's show, as I mentioned at the top of the program, my very first story is Suzuki set to strike with a trike? That's right. The folks over at Suzuki have been releasing out here on the internet in the wild several documents. These actually are Suzuki patents that have been floating around for the last several weeks or so. And there's been several breaking news stories about them, about what is going on. What on earth can the people at Suzuki be planning to build? As you can see by the slide on your screen right now, this indeed, guys and gals, this does appear to be a trike from the folks at Suzuki. But let's take a gander at this riding position. Look at how crazy this is. This is a vehicle that you end up sitting in. It is two wheels in the front, one wheel in the back. It is a sit-in type machine versus a sit-on type of machine. Super fascinating. You know, these are patent documents, so there's not too much detail that has been floating around about these machines that may or may not be coming from the folks at Suzuki, but woo, doesn't seem like an awful big waste of design energy if these don't actually happen. So there's been a little bit of speculation floating around. Let's go ahead and jump on into some of the speculation about this vehicle. New plans for a more inexpensive three-wheeler that's part scooter and part go-kart are rumored to be coming from the folks at Suzuki. A new patent filing in Japan shows plans for a scooter-powered Suzuki three-wheeler that can lean through corners, but it's unlike the rivals that are coming from Piaggio and Yamaha. Of course, Yamaha released that three-wheeler that does lean several years ago, and it burned down the internet. Everybody was real excited about it. A very cool machine. I guess Suzuki is kind of inspired by that and wants to go ahead and take a little bite out of the action, combining a low-slung car-like seat with motorcycle-style bars. It's cutting a figure more like the Polaris slingshot when it's seen from the side. But the slingshot is definitely more like a car, super, super modern styling. This is a little bit different. We can't exactly tell what the finished styling of this is going to be, but it is really interesting. This was released several weeks ago, these documents. And so what just peaked up again more recently is going to be this slide that's on your screen right now, which has a little bit more detail on it, including, Josh, check out by that rear wheel. That is right. This also has stay upright stabilizer training wheels on it as well. What is going on from the folks over at Suzuki? Only time will tell. We can only purely speculate, which you know I love to do here on the program, especially with these types of unearthed documents. It always kind of wets my whistle. It gets me going about what on earth could possibly be coming down the pipeline from the folks at Suzuki. So again, there's not a ton that we can say about it. Like the Yamaha Nikon that burnt down the internet again with that leaning style. That was a real big breakthrough several years ago. This does have that same type of capability. There was a couple more renderings and drawings that were floating around as well that get a little bit more into the detail of it. I didn't grab those slides because I just wanted to focus on the overall big picture. But look, Josh, you can tell that this is a sit-in, like a car almost, but has bars on the front. This definitely leans. You can tell by that slide. Oh, Ashley, go back one more slide. You can tell definitely that, look at the suspension on this. This
Yep.
vehicle is meant to lean. Josh, what do you think about this Easter egg coming from the folks at Suzuki?
So to me, there's a number of things with this. I mean, first off, knowing that the patent's being filed in Japan, obviously, okay, Suzuki's base, everything like that. To me, that is a much more viable market probably for this. I mean, scooters are so ubiquitous in Asian countries just because the crowding there. To have something that's, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that probably don't get on a scooter. Maybe they don't have the balance. Maybe there's all sorts of reasons why they may not want to get on a scooter. So to have something like this, I see as a neat alternative. It's still obviously very, very compact. It fits in something not much wider than a scooter, easier to get on possibly than something like a scooter. The only thing that I could think of when I saw those rear anti-tip wheels was the video from Top Gear, where they tested the Robin Reliant. If you look up Robin Reliant Top Gear, you will find 8 minutes of absolute hilarity. But to me, I mean, I see this as a mobility item and less of a power sports item. But to me, I love the fact that this, once again, it brings people into the fold. You don't need to drive around a ginormous car if you're going to the grocery store. This would work great. Throw the 2 bags of groceries on the back, you're good to go.
I was just going to say, this definitely does smack a little bit more of the potential for it to end up just staying in overseas market. But here's where it gets interesting. Plot twist. Here in the US also, we are definitely having a lot of conversation about that last mile delivery that's happening right now. And this huge need for smaller vehicles to take smaller items and smaller, orders of things in order to get to where they need to go. Think restaurant delivery, think, things from Amazon that go from the truck that need to get into the communities, but they don't need to move this great big huge truck vehicle. They need something more nimble and agile. So there's something to be said for the potential of this also ending up here in this country, which is really interesting. The other conversation about this is they are mentioning that just by these renderings, this is quite likely going to have a smaller CC, smaller displacement going on. So I find that really interesting as well. And again, that really makes me think that maybe this is really meant to be more of like a delivery use mobility type item. But anything that gets people's, butts into seats in different vehicles, other than just cars, I am here for it. So I thought that this was really very interesting, as well as really different from the folks at Suzuki. This is really unexpected for me, for the folks over there, because they're a little bit more traditional in my mind. So I'm really interested to see where we're headed with this. We're all gonna have to wait and see. You know that out here on the program, the minute that news breaks, we're gonna be bringing it to you here on the show. So make sure you follow along, hit those notifications on, give us a like, a follow, and a subscribe out here on the Facebooks and the YouTubes. Josh, what you got going on for your first story?
So I said, everyone changes. And if you look back to when I started in motorcycling, there was this small little company called Ducati that basically had a 916, and they had 3 or 4 levels of that. They had the 748, they had the Monster, and that was really kind of it. Well, Ducati has just announced that last year they had a record-setting year. And 2023 looks like more of the same. But it is not the way you might think. And that is why we have this right here, the big no circle around a sport bike with a Ducati sport bike, because that is, obviously this is what you think of when you think Ducati, but that is not how this happened. So in the Q1 of 2023 here, Ducati said they are basically on pace for another record year, which is awesome. Kudos to them. they released some interesting numbers about this also. And mind you, the numbers that they released were machines sold, not just machines stuffed into the back end of the dealership while the dealership was forced to take them. So the first bike that the top selling bike of this was the V4 Multistrada series. They delivered 2,668 of these guys in the first 3 months, which to me, that is one impressive number, especially when you look at the cost of these bikes. This is a high-end bike. It is top of class, and it is priced accordingly as Ducati does. For them to move that many out, I think is super impressive. The second highest selling bike this quarter, was the Monster Series with 2005. And once again, I've always loved the Monster Series. It's kind of the original hooligan bike. It was, especially way back when, and it still maintains, it is the way to get into a Ducati and to get into the Ducati lifestyle without necessarily mortgaging your first 3 children. To me, I've always loved these bikes. They are amazing. They're great. I've loved what Ducati's done with them over the years, and I'm pretty sure that is why that sold 2,005 units. Now, the third one here is the DesertX, and that sold 1,442 machines. And if you notice, there was a few months back when this bike released, Jacqui and I talked about how these people, in fact, not just Jacqui and I, the entire internet talked about how it looked like a bunch of stormtroopers on these bikes. So I may or may not have, I don't want to give away all the secrets here. Someone may have taken some liberties with the with the art here. We'll just leave it at that. So thankfully, if you see this guy with a gun, you realize he's not going to be able to hit anything, so you're safe. But they sold 1,442 machines. And with this being a brand new model, to me, that speaks volumes about what Ducati has done with this. So like I said, Ducati said these are machines that were sold, not just stuffed into dealerships. Europe is still Ducati's biggest market, but when you consider all of Europe, you know who came in second? Good old US of A here, which to me is also another interesting bit. Shows you how riding has shifted here and who's buying what bikes now. I did some math because you guys know I like diving into data. There were 62 working days in that quarter. 43 Multistradas per day rolled out of the dealership, which means they had to make 43 a day, which that is impressive. Came down to 32 Monsters per day and 23 DesertXs per day, which for being a brand new bike, they obviously set the tooling up right to be able to accomplish that. To me, those are just some interesting and awesome numbers. I mean, Jacqui, is this a helmet you're going to wear?
Well, seeing as the DesertX is obviously built in outer space in a galaxy far, far away, that's really impressive that they were able to land and deliver that many units.
Yeah.
Congratulations, kudos to Ducati of Tatooine. Bravo, bravo. Anywho, enough Star Wars geek references. No, I am super pumped to hear this news, and you're right. Ducati has just been on a roll. They are heading into, I think, pun intended, I think they are in their third year of just like ratcheting up better and better and better and better sales. So kudos to them. I do think the DesertX was just such a home run for them. It was just the right bike, right time. It's really looks amazing. Styling of this marketing shot aside, I think that the bike is absolutely incredible. It does make a lot of devotees of the brand. I think it's interesting that the Monster is still in second place. If you know your Ducati history, you know that at that time, the original Monster absolutely saved Ducati from bankruptcy, full stop. It absolutely saved the brand. So it is kind of a sweet surprise that they still are in number 2. They still are selling through this machine. It is still absolutely keeping Ducati relevant and out here and in this space, even with this redesign of the Monster. I have a bit of an older version, lover, trellis frame forever kind of gal, but I think that the new bike is very, very slick, and I mean it does everything, you know. So bravo to the folks at Ducati. I think that that's all super, super good news.
For
Thousands of
sure.
units in the first quarter. Goodness.
Yeah, and to me, the other thing is too with that is when you look back as what Ducati used to be a boutique manufacturer of sorts. They're an Italian. I
Still
mean,
are.
they were the Italian exotic. They are. I mean, they're still exotic, and somehow they have maintained that. But they have still been able to attack and get more of that market share. Which for a brand like that, Ferrari isn't going after more market share. Lamborghini isn't going after more market share. But yet Ducati has done that in a phenomenal way, and to them, kudos for that.
Yeah, I think they made a real clear choice. You know, they were going to stick with their roots, stick with their high performance, high horsepower, very expensive, very very boutique bikes, but they were able to successfully annex off the more approachable bikes, a la the Monster, a la the Scrambler,
Yep.
and be able to sell those through and keep everything fresh, relevant, and more importantly, the lights on and the bills paid in Bologna. So, bravo to them. All good news. Everything's coming up roses for the brand from Italy, right? So, my second
For
story
sure.
for today, as promised at the beginning of the show, I wrote it all out so I don't miss it. It is an interesting story about possibly the most boring part of motorcycles and power sports that everybody has to have. If you had to guess what I was talking about, Josh, would you guess insurance? Is that your guess?
No,
So
I
yeah,
was
I
getting ready
thought
for
this
my
was actually
pillow.
so I think that this is a really actually very fascinating story because I was not aware that this product existed and they're expanding and growing. And so I figured why not talk about it here on the show. And this is going to be a really neat company called VOOM. VOOM is a pay per mile motorcycle insurance company, which again, Josh, I did not know that was even a thing. I pay my insurance, of course, like everybody I'm sure who watches the program does. If any way that we can figure out how to save money on insurance, I am absolutely here for it, particularly if it's a vehicle that you don't use all the time, like an off-road vehicle. Well, guess what? That's part of this expansion for the folks over at VOOM. They are now expanding to cover off-road vehicles. Right now it is Colorado only, unfortunately, but there's potential for this to happen in many more states. Let's go ahead and jump on into this story. This is VOOM expands coverage to Colorado and off-road vehicles. The pay-per-mile motorcycle insurance company VOOM is expanding to Colorado, increasing its service area to 11 states currently. For the first time, they are also adding coverage for off-road vehicles in that state. ATV, UTV, and motorcycle coverage will only be in Colorado at first, but VOOM says it will soon expand to cover off-road vehicles in other states. VOOM offers usage-based insurance that bases insurance rates on vehicle mileage instead of charging a flat fee. Woo! Instead, unlike some pay-per-mile insurance coverage for automobiles, VOOM doesn't use a tracking device to measure usage either. Customers only have to send VOOM on the app a photo of the odometer each month. The more you ride, the more you pay. But if you don't ride as often, you can save some money. And the vehicle is covered even if you don't put any miles on it in a particular month. VOOM claims customers can save as much as 60% compared to traditional insurance plans. This can be particularly useful for those in areas with shorter riding seasons. That is what I am talking about, Josh. This is why I thought this was so interesting because not everybody lives in beautiful sunny California, right? Here in the middle part of America, our riding season is only a handful of months. So why am I paying by the year? I have been thinking this idea for years and years. And now, even though my motorcycle insurance, because I ride mostly older bikes, is very reasonable, I have always just kind of wondered, like, why am I paying year round? How could this be a thing? And this company, VOOM, has figured out how to skin this cat, as it were. So I wanted to go ahead and talk about that on the show because I thought that was really interesting. Now, if we can figure out how to do this for things like camper vans, like the one that sits in my driveway most of the year, I'd be even more excited. Josh, what do you think about this story? What do you think about this pay per mile insurance idea?
I mean, it's interesting, and I know you mentioned the plug-in because there's a lot of times where, yeah, I don't want my insurance company to have my data. Let's just put that politely. That there may have been a few moments that had been outside of what local law enforcement would agree with. Doing this to your odometer, I think, I mean, for a lot of people, I know is going to work great, and it's going to be a neat thing. To me, I mean, I know you mentioned the off-season riding. I do like the fact that you can keep the insurance on. January 1st of this year, it was 45 and raining. Me and a buddy, we looked at each other like, let's go. So, I mean, we'll ride year round. And so to be able to have this, there's obviously some months where we're not going to ride as much. To be able to get this judged for you and to say, look, this is going to give you a discount. I know a ton of people that this would benefit. I know a number of people also that they would look at that. They would like, you rode how far? Yeah, no, this month is extra. So there's that balance in that. But it's really, it's a great thing. And it's obviously going to benefit so many people, and especially for the off-road stuff. If someone leaves this thing sitting in their garage most of the year, they take it out to I know plenty of people that have 4-seater side-by-sides that take them to their property in Southern Ohio twice a year. Other than that, it sits in their garage. To them, this is huge.
Right.
So yeah, I think there's some really great use cases and stuff like this that, yes, glad to see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I am too. And then one last little blurb while we're talking about this VOOM story is they also are expanding, and they are going to be in Florida, Georgia, and Alabama, and many other states coming soon. So I thought that was just really fascinating. Any way for people to be able to insure their things, insure their toys. ATVs and UTVs are getting more and more expensive. We're putting more and more money into them. So let's make sure that they are, of course, insured. Things happen. Theft happens, unfortunately. So that is all that I want to talk about for the folks at VOOM. Congratulations. Very exciting news. Cool. Josh, what do you got going on for your second story?
So we talked about beta last week. So why not bring them up again this week, right? Because I'm a broken record. But this is not about
bring your own beta.
This is not how you bring your own beta. This is how buying your own beta is now possibly going to become easier. As yes, every single one of those people in that picture, I believe, is holding a shovel and is wearing a hard hat. Although I don't see any equipment around. If it was me, I know Jacqui would be aiming one of those shovels at my head, so I would need the hard hat. But Beta just broke ground on a new U.S. facility. The facility will be to house parts, motorcycle warehousing, offices, technical and race teams, and a state-of-the-art dealer training center. This will be, like everything else in Southern California, is where this is going to be set up at. Per Tim Pilg, the Beta USA president, he said it's a dream for us to start the build of this new facility. I mean, to me, this is something that they've been waiting for a long time. And as they've gained traction in the U.S., they finally realized, yep, if we want to grow, we need to make sure that we support the people. And this is how they're going to do it. This is obviously a small 3D rendering that they released of it. Beta now has more than 200 plus US dealerships, and they're probably going to be bringing on some more from the way it sounds. Like I said, as a fan, anytime, especially from some of these more boutique manufacturers, if we can get support, that means, hey, if I chuck it off of the top of a hill and it goes head over heels 10 times down the hill, am I waiting six years for the parts? Stuff like this tells me no. And that's what I like to see in stuff like this. And that is why I'm so glad to hear this. Plus, like I said, I like the company. I like a lot of things that they stand for. So to see them growing, 2 thumbs up from this guy. I'm assuming you're sharing the same opinions on this, right, Jacqui?
Yeah, definitely. Although to be more specific, this is not Southern California. It is Central Coast. Their headquarters are going to be in the beautiful Central Coast, Paso Robles area, which is really very cool. And absolutely beautiful riding area. A beautiful riding area as well. I mean, it's just a couple hours north of LA. But anyway, I love that neck of the woods. So this is really fascinating that they're going to be there. Not too much of a surprise because it is gorgeous all year round. They can ride all the time. Why wouldn't you put your headquarters in California? For more information about this story and a ton of other news, by the way, do not forget we also have our parent website, motorcyclepowersportsnews.com, that goes into a little bit deeper depth about this story and many, many others. So make sure you click on it over and check it out. So that is today's program, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate each and every one of you. As always, go ahead, peek into the comments. Let us know what you think. Let us know where you're tuning in from or what you'd like to see more of or less of Josh or, whatever you want. Let us know. We will jump on in there and reply and talk back at you. We read the comments every single week. So thanks, everybody. We will see you next week.